This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk.
Hello, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. Sunday, December 12th. It's a beautiful, so far, beautiful day. We had winds, lost power. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a show this morning. But it's a nice morning now. It's warm. Out to dinner with some good friends last night. Learned some new stuff. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Out to dinner at Armando's in Rotterdam. Free advertising for you there at Armando's. Some great food, good company. I learned what a tiny little spoon they give you for your coffee is called, and now I don't remember what it was. Damn. Learned something new. Check out my Facebook page, and I guess you'll know what it was. Nobody cares about that. Lots of stuff in the world of sports is always to talk about. We're going to talk about Army-Navy today. We're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young. Thought it was a no-brainer last night. Maybe we'll talk about what that award really means. We're going to have Jim Biringer in to talk about the NHL. We'll go through his power rankings this week. We'll talk a little about the Olympics, some COVID situations, some issues with the Canucks, the Flyers, and the Coyotes. Some things that are on Jim's mind. Major League Baseball. A little bit of news there. The NFL, we're moving to week 14. Patriots with the number one seed in the AFC. How about that? Good morning, Carlos. Alan just got off work. Good to see you this morning, Alan. Glad you'll catch us before you take a nap. Can we talk Yankees? What am I going to talk about, Carlos? You and I should talk about Yankees next week. What am I missing? Did I miss something in Yankee world we should talk about? Patriots. Oh, Carlos doesn't like my Patriots comment. We had that discussion Friday, and again, we have to come up with a new wager, I think, Carlos. We'll talk a little of college football coaching carousel and some news with some jobs being filled. Oh, just lots and lots of stuff to call. Well, Mark Mancini in at 10:25-ish. I think he's going to be phoning in today. We'll talk about his Steelers and their awful decline. I don't remember what else Mark wanted to talk about today. Mark also he wants to talk about the owners and the players and who can root for who cares about who wins, man. Game of the day. What's the game of the day, Alan? Patriots reports Yankees holding off because they have guys in the minors. Not surprised. Not surprised. You know, the Yankees, I don't know what it is with the Yankees. Until Brian, we need just a change in the regime. We really do. This is not the Yankees that I remember. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Good morning, Bill. For Jim, when he comes on, free to ask, what's going on with the Coyotes? We got the Coyotes definitely on the topic. Jim wanted to talk about that today, so he will definitely talk about the Coyotes. Oh, and the Islanders finally win their first home game, and we know what that will prompt. Flamon Carlos Chavez. Carlos, maybe Friday you and I should probably get into the Yankees and how they should rebuild this team, because I know that we have different opinions about how to go about that. So we may have to chat about that a little bit. Bowl season's coming up, guys, soon. They'll start on the 17th. I'm filling out today one of my polls. I'm going through this. I'm thinking to myself, is anybody going to be at this Middle Tennessee Toledo game or watching it on noon on the 17th? I don't know. It's bloated. Again, in my mind, it's an extension of the participation trophy syndrome we have here in this country, and we'll see. What do you got here? The Yankees say they have these guys. Where they were, well, that's a very good question, actually, Carlos. Now, there are two good shortstops, and I don't have their names here on top of me because I wasn't planning on talking a lot about the Yankees. They do supposedly have two good shortstops ready to come up, And again, I think we're going to have this topic of conversation Friday, Carlos. So I have a plan in mind of how the Yankees should go about this next season. And I know it will differ from what yours is based on some conversations we've had in the past. Oh, 3 games intrigue. There are some very good teams. And we'll go through that here, after we talk with Jim Biringer and some hockey and college football. Raiders, Chiefs, very important game in the West. Absolutely good call. Cowboys and what the F team? What? The team formerly known as the Redskins. And Bills, Buccaneers. The Buccaneers and Tom Brady will be putting Buffalo 2 full games behind the Patriots. If you have players, bring them up and have them play. The Yankees, Mets, Baltimore, whoever says they bring up guys. I'm sick of watching terrible baseball. So am I. But these teams manipulate their service time. We know that. That's going to come up as part of what there's going to be argued in this collective bargaining agreement, Carlos, is the fact that the players want an opportunity to make money faster and sooner in their career. I mean, Aaron Judge won't be a free agent until he's 30 years old. And the teams manipulate these guys' service time by keeping them in minors extra time, and when they don't even need to be there. Pulver, you were at BJ's last night. One Saturday I'm not at BJ's. I wouldn't be there at night, but anyway, your brothers and the thought about expensive drink for our podcast gathering, was it? Oh, you would both your brothers say hello to them, by the way, for me. All right. Toros. I will not go to Toros with you again, Billy. I got home too late and got in trouble. So what else is going on here? Carlos, Aaron Judge would be awesome and independent. Oh my gosh. Well, Carlos, anyway, I think that's one of our topics. And I think 2 is the best we can do a week, and then odds and ends. So I'm going to say we talk about the Yankee rebuild and how to go against it, and you come up with another topic that we'll be on opposite sides of, and we'll go there from there. What do you got, Alan? It's all about money because of where the world is currently, and people want to help feed their families. I don't know if we're talking about Major League Baseball players. I don't think any of them are having trouble feeding their families. So, again, it's billionaires against millionaires. Who do you root for in that? All I care about is I get good baseball back. Get rid of the stupid rules. Put whatever CBA in place you want. I really don't care about the money. I'll either go to games or I won't. Anyway, with that, why don't we bring in, let me get the right, are we on the right thing here? Yeah, this is a good one. Let's bring in Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. Sorry, I got you in the wrong window there. Jim, how are you this Sunday morning?
I'm doing good. How you doing this morning?
It's a beautiful day here in upstate New York so far after a windy night with no power, but what are you going to do? Other than that, it's wonderful. Fun game with our Army-Navy. Navy pulling the upset yesterday. Guys, it's funny. I was talking with Rick a little bit, Rick Sherlock, back and forth yesterday and some messaging. And, the casual fans will tune in for this game where they won't turn in for others. And it was a fun game. I'll tell you a funny story. I bet this over because, the trend today, 14 times it's gone under the number in a row.
Yeah.
And they scored 17 points between them in the first quarter, and I'm thinking, I'm golden. How are they not going to score,
Yeah.
18 more? Well, they scored about 10 more. But a fun game. Good. Congratulations to Navy. You beat Army. And I guess the GOAT did not get stolen again this year. So that's a lot of pluses for Navy. Did you watch the game yesterday, Jim?
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of the game. I had it on. But Navy with the surprising upset. You figured, maybe Army get a W there with the better record, but give credit to the Navy. It doesn't matter what the record is of either team; they're going to come out because this is the game that matters the most to them in the regular season. Yeah, Army is going to go off to a bowl game, but as one of the announcers said heading into this game, you have to realize Navy have one of the toughest schedules in the league in college football this year. Playing in the American, and they held number 4 Cincinnati to like 27 points this year. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that their defense is actually really good, and they put a good scheme together against Army.
They did. They played better later in the year, and Coach Ken. My wife said his name so perfectly yesterday, and I just cannot. I don't have the muscle memory in my tongue to get because every vowel gets pronounced right in the name, and I just can't do it. So even you say ESPN, it was funny because they were referring to him as Coach Ken. So I guess I can get away with that. He's a great coach. He's probably never going to coach anywhere else because he's taken another job and left after 24 hours and came back. I think he took the Arizona job like 5 years ago. But they did have a great game plan. Both of these coaches are very underrated head coaches in college, and it's a fun game to watch. And tough for Army because they've had a great year, and as Jeff Monken said yesterday, it doesn't matter how good our year is. If we don't win this game, the season's lost.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing for Army is at least they're going to a bowl game, so at least they have that to look forward to, and they can finish the season high. But they don't get the Commander-in-Chief trophy outright, so that's what you want to get. If you're in the academy schools in college football and you want to beat Navy. I mean, that's like, as we said before, it's the biggest rivalry going in sports, and it's always fun, and it was played in MetLife. I was seeing, I think it was ESPN showing prior to game day coming on, they were showing highlights of old Army-Navy games, and the only time it was out in like the Rose Bowl was like 83 or something. I'm like, oh man, imagine if they rotated that game out to the West Coast every so often, how great it would be.
I didn't realize it was played out there that recently, actually. I mean, it was 30 years ago, but
yeah, it's still 30 years ago.
I mean, I know they've played in a lot of different locations over the years. Philadelphia is where I grew up watching them play year after year in Philly, and I still like the game when it's in Philly. I don't know why, just because I'm old and I don't like change, probably. But that's an interesting point there. And, both these coaches, again, I think, they could move on. And I don't know if either one of them ever will move on, to be honest with you. They both seem ingrained in the environment that they're coaching in, and they like the fact that it's more than just football.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Monken's such a great coach. He's turned that Army program around. Coach Ken is doing what he's done down in Navy. Like you said, these guys have opportunities to go other places. These guys could be big-time coaches in college football and aren't. And there's a reason why. They like the environment. They like developing what the military schools stand for. They like the rivalry of that, and they don't need to go anyplace else. They have jobs set for life until they decide to retire or move on.
Yeah, and talking about the trophy, it does stay with Army, right? Because it was a 3-way split, I think, this year. So they don't lose the trophy. They just didn't win it outright, I guess.
Yeah.
So. It's fun. And as Alan says, Army will get another shot to play again in the Armed Forces Bowl against Mizzou. That's you are accurate, Alan. That is the bowl game they're in. And they're actually 3.5-point favorite, I think, over Missouri. So that should be a fun game amongst a lot of other games that won't be so fun. But that's a topic for another day. Before we get off college football, unless you've got anything else you want to chat about, let's talk quickly. As Dave Traver says, Bryce Young, good choice for the Heisman Trophy. I think he won it, as you and I have talked about when he took them 98 yards against Auburn with a minute 20 left. Tremendous. That's the type of Heisman Trophy season-defining moment that everybody needs. And then to back it up with a huge day against Georgia, I didn't think there was any way he would lose. What are your thoughts on this? And is this, has this become just a quarterback trophy? Are we getting the best player? I mean, Chad Hutchinson might very well be is his name Chad?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson, sorry. Hutchinson, I think, I could say he's as impactful a player as Bryce Young on the other side of the football.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that definitely. I think Hutchinson deserved a lot of votes. I'd like to see what the split is, who got more first place votes, second place votes like that. But, I mean, Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy against Auburn. If he wasn't already going to win it, it's unfortunate because it's turned into a quarterback, wide receiver, running back type award. It's not always the best player award.
And rarely the wide receiver gets it, by the way. Wide receivers don't get it that often.
No, they don't. So it's basically like quarterback, running back award. But it's a shame because, Hutchinson had a really good season. Even Bryce Young's own teammate on the other end that didn't even go to New York, Anderson. Yeah, he should have been in New York and maybe had a chance to win it as well. But Young, what he did against Auburn, what he did against Georgia, that's what you're talking about, Heisman moments. Everybody goes back. You see it all the time, the Heisman moment with Desmond Howard. He puts it up. He's like, yeah, I'm the best player in college football. So
very interesting that Aiden Hutchinson finished second in the voting.
Okay.
2,300 votes for Bryce Young, 900. So he runs away with it. 954 for Hutchinson. Pickett gets 631, and Stroud was down there with 399. And interestingly enough, Will Henderson was fifth. So you had two defensive guys in the top five. Maybe they'll get some consideration here as we go forward. We talked about the other night, one defensive player in the history of this award has won, and he won because he played some wide receiver and returned punts very effectively. So that's one of the big reasons he won, not for his defensive prowess. So
and best all-around player in college football. That's what it is, best player in college football. So good to see. Yeah, obviously Bryce Young wins it.
We might have another topic to talk about Friday, Carlos. Hutchinson didn't win a game and play like Theo. Theo, who's Theo?
Does he talk about Tebow?
I'm not sure. But, again, we look at statistics and we think that they win the games. That's not always where the games are won and lost. They're won and lost in the trenches, and these guys don't get enough consideration.
No, they don't. They really don't. And Hutchinson had such a great year for Michigan. He was a big reason why Michigan beat Ohio State and won won some big games this year. And that defensive line in Michigan is playing a lot better than people expected, and that's what they needed to do. And Hutchinson's a big reason why.
Manti.
Oh yeah. But he never was going to do anything anyway. But then Kenny Pickett played well for Pitt. I thought, was the conference down this year? Why? Because Clemson wasn't good. That's okay. But Clemson rebounded. It still was a good conference. And they played well, and he did what he had to do. But it was Bryce Young's award to lose, and he didn't lose it. And you know what? He won it going away, and he had his two big moments, and that's what you need, and that's what the committee and the voters saw. And they decided he was the best player in college football.
Rick would love to see Hutchinson picked by the Vikings. I'll tell you what, he's going to go. The guy's going to go in the first 2-3 picks. He might very well be the number one pick in the draft, so. How that's not the best player in college, I'm not really sure, but
statistics, measuring standards, what you believe is how you determine.
Kenny's talking about they got to be seen more than other people, which is true, I guess, right?
I don't know. Michigan played on a big stage this year.
Good point. And there's been players that have won that haven't necessarily been on teams that were highly exposed. Ty Detmer won at BYU for crying out loud, dude. But again, I know a while ago. How about Lamar Jackson wins at Louisville? They weren't on national TV every single week.
Wasn't that still the Big East too?
No, they were in the ACC by then.
Okay.
Yeah. So he played on TV. Everybody plays on TV every week. Robert Griffin III wasn't playing on national TV every week when he won. So, But these other guys, it's not a bad point that, you know, but again, it's part of the problem with the voting on the teams. The East Coast there is an East Coast bias because they get seen more because of the times they play games, right? So
yeah, I mean, if you're not staying up watching late games for Oregon or Utah or teams like that, I mean, San Diego State had a really good running back in the day, and you know what? He wasn't seen, but you know what? He was a good running back, but you know, again, the East Coast bias.
Yeah. So, and again, just so to be clear, Alan, I'm not saying Bryce Young is not deserving of this award because I think he is. He's had a great season, and he had that defining moment that poor Alan, poor Pickett's getting up in the Giants. Who would risk that against for somebody?
Yeah, I know, right?
That's fine. Anyway. Unless you got something else in college, I want to pivot to hockey so we don't lose your main focus here. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about your power rankings that you released the other day.
Yep.
Which has the Rangers, by the way, moving up that list pretty far. What are your overall thoughts? Where the heck? I had it up and I lost it now. Let's start. Who you got at the top?
Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously, they stayed up there. Number one from the week before when I put out the initial rankings at the quarter mark. I just like what their team is doing. They're playing really good, sound defensive hockey. They're buying into a system now. They have Peter Mrazek back, so that they'll have a nice 1-2 punch with Jack Campbell, and the top guys are playing really well for them. Matthews, Marner. Marner's out for a few weeks because of a collision with Muzzin in practice, but they're still able to play well with Tavares and other guys stepping up like Nylander and Richie and Kasha. So the Maple Leafs are doing well. Again, for Toronto, it's about not proving it now. It's about doing it in May and April.
Yeah, and the Rangers are kind of the people who said that you make a great comment in your little quick blurb here that who said Gerard Gallant can't coach in the NHL. I mean, there was a lot of naysayers, especially on this show, about the hiring of Gallant, and he's done a great job with his team.
Yeah, he has. And if you haven't seen him this week's power rankings, the Rangers are up at number 2. They're closing in on the top spot. They're playing really well. Yeah, they had a stinker against Colorado, but they bounced back really well on Friday against Buffalo. They played really good hockey. That's the type of coaching you need. Gallant settles everything down. And again, the Colorado game, again, is scheduling. You're in Chicago late on Tuesday, and you got to come home and play a Wednesday game, 7 p.m. So it's tough. So those back-to-backs that Colorado's just dominating right now, just the way they're playing. Their offense is so good, deadly. They could consistently score, feels like 7 goals a night with everybody, especially with Nate McKinnon back. But I like what the Rangers are doing. You know, Georgiev is raising his draft stock this week with Shesterkin out.
Yeah, who were your big upward movers? One thing, and I know you put a lot of work into this. One thing that is really cool that I like with that some of the other power rankings do, they'll show who dropped, where they.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a table so I could get arrows to go up and down.
Well, that'll be cool.
Yeah. One of my big movers, obviously, is the Rangers. Dallas moved into the top 10 this week. Edmonton dropped because of their goaltending. They need to find a goaltender. And as I was saying before, the way Georgiev's been playing, he's a guy that if I'm Edmonton, I'm looking at a guy like that, maybe bring him in to solidify my goaltending, because it just Koskinen and Skinner not just getting it done with no Mike Smith. The Edmonton Oilers have a great team and they have a great power play, but they just can't stop the puck. Obviously the bottom is the bottom with the bad teams like the Canucks, Flyers, all that stuff. But it's tough because in the middle it's so difficult. Like the Champs moved up a bit. Calgary pretty much stayed the same. I'm trying to think. It's a lot of work to go into it because you have to watch so many games and you have to break down so much information that it's just, to have the arrow be great. But like I said, the best teams right now to me, Toronto, Calgary, Carolina's playing. Carolina dropped in my rankings, but now they'll probably move back up at the way they're playing. Again, it's so much stuff goes into it. It's just not, it's not just the record. Because if you just did it by record, yeah, it's easy. If there's so many other factors that go into it.
Yeah, at the bottom too, and I we'll get into this. I know this wasn't one of the teams you wanted to chat about, but I guess it's obligatory because we're going to get the comment we expect here. The Islanders did finally win a game in their new home.
Right.
Is there any chance for this team? Because obviously we're still got the fire Trotz chance coming from Carlos. I don't know if that's the answer there, though. I mean,
no, it's not the answer. Look, they've got points in. If you want to look at it, they got points in 5 or 6 games. They had a tough loss against Nashville with 11 seconds left. They finally get the monkey off their back against the Devils on Saturday night in the new barn. 2 former Devils, Parisi and Green, scoring against their former team and win. If Barry Trotz is not going to get fired as long as Lou Lamoriello is the general manager, those guys are tied at the hip. And if firing Trotz was the answer, they would have done it. But who are you going to replace him with? And who's going to be a better coach to get this team playing the way they want to play? They're starting to turn it around. They're starting to play better defensively. They need to make the adjustments within their team. They need to get Oliver Wahlstrom more minutes. They need to get Kiefer Bello more minutes. Those guys are the offensive talent that the Islanders need. You cannot continue to rely on guys that are not going to do anything, i.e. Kyle Palmieri gets signed to a big deal and hasn't really done much. Pajot's finally getting on the board. Parisi finally scored. And defensively, Dobson's going to be the anchor of that defense. You can't have Andy Green and Zdeno Chara eating minutes for the younger guys on that team. And that's what's hurting the Islanders. It's not Barry Trotz.
It looks like, as you and I were discussing last night, some of the topics you want to touch on. And while we're on your power rankings, I mean, 3 of the teams that you wanted to talk about are at the bottom of this list.
Yeah.
What's going on? We'll start with the Coyotes, and the turmoil there is just continuing. It seems like it's been going on for years. What do you see happening there? And what are you hearing about the team being sold, and will they be moved? What's the deal?
Look, the never-ending saga that is the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, look, from what I've been told, this team is for sale, regardless of what they say publicly. They're moving assets out. They have a very slim payroll. They can't make pay. Players are getting checks late. They can't pay their bills to the city. The city of Glendale wants them out of the arena. They're trying to get a new arena in Tempe. Unfortunately, everything just looks like this team is getting sold, and I think it will. Where they go, I've heard Houston, Kansas City, places like that, because it just hasn't worked out there. Now, give Gary Bettman credit. He does try his best not to relocate teams, but it comes to a point when you have to admit failure, and the experiment in the desert has not worked outside the first couple seasons when they were in Phoenix. Ever since they moved out of that downtown arena, they haven't been good. The team isn't good, and it's hard to watch, and it is time for a change.
That change means moving them to a different location?
Yeah, moving them to a different location. I mean, look, I don't know if it'll get any better if they're in a Tempe arena or whatever it is, but they need to be out of Arizona because, let's face it, it isn't working.
Well, that'll bring us to another team at the very bottom of the standings, the Vancouver Canucks, and somebody who's been a very successful coach is now involved there, in Bruce Boudreau. What are your thoughts on Vancouver and what's going on there?
Well, it seems to be working right away. They got 3 wins after they made the coaching change. Travis Green gets fired. Jim Benning gets fired. They move out their entire hockey management staff like they did with Montreal. And the Canucks have won 3 in a row. They're playing well. Their players are playing really well. They still need more from Pettersson, Horvat, and Besser. But Quinn Hughes is stepping up. JT Miller looks good. Niels Honglander is playing well, and they're believing in the system. And the fact they have Thatcher Demko in net their record could be a lot worse if they didn't have him between the pipes, because he's been a real big reason why they've won a lot of games lately. He just some of the saves he makes is ridiculous, and that goes back to the bubble. Everybody forgets back in that bubble, Vancouver was 1 game away from knocking out Vegas Golden Knights and go to the Western Conference Final against the Dallas Stars. So they're not too far removed from that. So that's where they want to get. Connor Garland's a stud. They just need more from their back end. And Boudreaux's going to get the best out of the offensive talent there, and he's a great coach. Let's see what they do now that Jim Rutherford's in as the president of hockey operations and the interim GM. Let's see what they do there. They still want to hire a general manager, but Rutherford is aggressive enough to where he can make the moves necessary to make this team successful going forward, because he's done it in Carolina and in Pittsburgh. And when he was with Pittsburgh, they won 2 Stanley Cups. I'm not saying Vancouver. I'm not saying get the parade route ready in Vancouver for 2 Stanley Cups, but he can lay the foundation for this team to be a consistent playoff team.
Boudreaux's been a good coach around the league in different places, so I think that's a good choice, at least at this point in time for them. Before we talk about which one of these teams that are at the bottom that could, I think we already got maybe a choice for that, but let's move on to another team in turmoil, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers. And I mean, again, they're moving the wrong direction. They fired their coach after a long losing streak. What else do we hear about that situation, Jim?
So Alain Vigneault, Michel Therrien are out as the coaches there. Therrien was an assistant. Mike Yeo was promoted to interim head coach. They still continued the losing streak at 10 games. However, the Flyers won back-to-back games against Vegas and then Arizona, so they have a 2-game winning streak going on right now. They're still near the bottom. It's definitely going to take some time. Even we saw in St. Louis when Berube took over, it took some time. You know, the best part for when these teams did everything is the fact that there's still a lot of runway left in the season. If this was a 56-game season, I say, this season's over and all that. But playing 82 games, this was the right time. They didn't wait. As far as the Flyers go, I don't think Yo's going to stick around unless this team makes a deep playoff run. Personally, from what I'm told, I think a guy on television on TNT is going to be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, and that's Rick Tocchet. I just think he fits that team really well. He was a head coach in Arizona, but I thought he did a really good job there despite the players that were on the ice. Not his fault that team didn't succeed. They did make a playoff appearance and lost to Colorado. And again, it was the bubble, but they still made the playoffs. So, I think Tocchet would be a good fit for that team for what they want to do. I still think that more changes need to be made. And as much as it would pain Flyers fans, you got to look at the captain who's an unrestricted free agent. Maybe it's time to move on and start refreshing this team and getting younger, and because Giroux's just not producing anymore.
Agreed. So listen, to those 6, well, we didn't talk about all 6. These bottom feeders, everyone that we've talked about is one of them. I'm going to assume if somebody was going to make a playoff push here, it's going to be the team you got at 32. Is that correct?
Yeah, Vancouver in that Pacific Division could make a playoff run just because of the coach there with Boudreaux. They're still a ways out of it, but the Pacific Division, the way it is it's not terrible. They're still a ways away, but they're not as a ways away as you think. Vancouver, Winnipeg is at 31 points right now. Second wild card, Vancouver's at 24. So 7 points isn't a lot.
Well, while we're on the topic, let me get a couple of comments that have been coming up while we've been here. So, obviously, Carl is looking forward to some good vibes in Vancouver, and some suggestions about the move for the Coyotes. And I guess I'll group these together because there's a bunch of comments here. One's got to return to Hartford, Oklahoma City, and then send them to Quebec, I think are the 3 options that are listed here. What are your thoughts on those 3 options, or do you have a different one that you'd like to throw out there?
Hartford's not going to happen. I'm just going to throw that right out there. Hartford's not going to happen. Oklahoma City, I think it would be Kansas City, if anything. I don't think Oklahoma City, because Kansas City has a ready-made arena. And I don't know if they're going to want to go in with the Thunder and all that stuff. And they're going to be behind football there. Quebec City's interesting because at the Board of Governors meeting, Gary Bettman did mention that they have a meeting with the city of Quebec in January. Again, take what you will. If they did, the problem is they want to keep the Coyotes in the Western Conference to have a balance of the 32 teams. So if they move to Houston or Kansas City, they could still do that. If they went to Quebec City, now there's an unbalance and somebody would have to move back out west.
Right.
So that's where the complications are. as much as I want to see Quebec City get a team again, I don't know if it's the Coyotes. It could be somebody else. I doubt it is. I mean, maybe if it was expansion again, but I think they found what they're looking for in expansion with the 32 teams in Seattle. It's a shame that Quebec couldn't work out because it was such a great hockey market and the rivalry with the Canadians was so good. But you never know. Never say never. So, but they are meeting, so that's a good sign.
All right, off that topic a little bit and some comments. Carlos talks about Gero going to the Rangers. What are your thoughts there? And he's also, I think this is tied to it. Hope he's not. Hope that it's a rental to need to avoid. I guess he thinks that he shouldn't be going there. What are your thoughts?
Look, I don't think that's not what the Rangers need right now. They have enough of those type players with Panarin and Zibanejad. What they really need is a middle six forward to somebody to replace Sammy Blais, who's lost for the year. And that's where Georgiev comes in. Because you have a guy like Huska who's down in the minors, or a guy like Kincaid that can fill that Georgiev role. You need a middle six forward. That's what they really need, because their top six is set. And the young kids are playing a lot better than, expected. I mean, obviously at Lafreniere and Kakko, everybody wants them to score more goals, but Lafreniere's playing really well in that role right now in that third line. If they can figure out get a middle six forward in there, they'll be really set. That's what they really need. So Giroux, no.
Billy wants to know who let the Jets beat up on your Devils this week.
The Devils are just a bad hockey team. It's plain and simple. They're just not good. They're still a young team, and I wouldn't be shocked at the end of the year that the Devils make a coaching change and fire Lindy Ruff and go for Rikard Grönberg out of Sweden. I think that's the guy they really want to get for this team, especially with the young players that they have there. They're just defensively, even though they're better with the pieces that they added. Again, it didn't hurt that, last night they had Nico and Ryan Graves on COVID protocol, but they're still a young team, and I know you don't want to hear that, and they want to start playing meaningful games, but they have to fix stuff. The power play is atrocious. The penalty kill is terrible. Mark Recchi's just not worked out. Alain Nazardine was a big problem when he was a head coach. So I think those are two extra moves that they need to make, but I think they need to overhaul the coaching staff as well. And maybe a guy they look to at the end of the year besides Grönberg is Kevin Dineen and what he's doing down in Utica. Good
points. Carlos talks about Ben Bishop being out. You talked about the Stars moving up in your rankings, I believe, earlier. How much of a loss is that going to be and affect them going forward?
I don't think too much of a loss. I mean, they've been without him since the bubble, pretty much. I mean, they made the Stanley Cup final without him. Anton Hudobin was the guy there. Now it's Jake Ottinger and Braden Holtby. They have a good leadership core. I mean, it's a shame Bishop, with his injuries and everything, he couldn't get back to the NHL. But, his time is now. And I don't think the leadership is a big thing with him. He's a goalie. Guys don't really talk to those guys too much anyway. They like to be left alone. With that locker room, we got Pavelski, Sagan, Ben, and Rick Bowness is a good head coach. So I think the Stars will be fine without him. It's just a shame he couldn't end his career on his own terms. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Kenny mentions coaches get fired and players just move on and do nothing new. I don't know if that's the case. It's always hit and miss when you fire a coach during the middle of the season. I don't care what sport we're talking about. But there certainly have been instances where changes have given teams that little spark that they needed to get going. As we see with the Canucks a little bit now. And we've seen, sporadically in other sports. What's your general feel on firing coaches in mid-season, and does it help?
It depends on what it is. I mean, if it's early enough so the system can be put into play, that's great. We saw with St. Louis, they did it December. They still struggled a bit, and then they went on that run. Darryl Sutter came in last year with Calgary. It was a shortened season. He really didn't have a lot of time to put his system into play. Yeah, Calgary almost made the playoffs. But then he had an off-season and training camp, and look what the Flames are doing right now. So yeah, I think it depends on when you do it and the type of season. I think Boudreau now is the perfect time for the Canucks to make the change.
Before we let you go, let's finish up with the Olympic status. What's happening there? I know there's a lot of protocols being put into place, and COVID you wanted to talk about too. I think these things are tied together, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those two situations: the COVID situation within the league, and then what's the status of the Olympic experience.
So the COVID situation is this: it's the protocols and everything are being tightened. You see more and more players each day being added to the protocol list. It depends on games. If games get canceled or teams have to postpone, we already saw a bunch of teams have to, postpone games. Coming out of the Board of Governors meeting this week, that the NHL has said that it's in the players' hands when it comes to the Olympics. We already saw Robin Leonard drop out because he said because of his mental health, saying with the quarantine rules that are over there, and that's going to be the biggest thing that plays into this. I got to believe. Besides, and everybody says it's a risk. There's always risk with injury when you go over to the Olympics, and I think there's a bigger risk now because if you test positive, you could be stuck in China for 3 to 5 weeks in a quarantine, and if it's a star player, that's going to derail a team, and I think that's the biggest factor. That's going to determine this thing. As much as players want to go, I don't think it's the right decision to do. If I was them, I would be like, look, I think we have to postpone this as much as we agreed to it in the CBA. And that's what they said. Oh, we put it in the CBA for them. Well, you know what? The thing can be renegotiated and say, we can go into Italy. And we just don't think this is the right time. We're still in a global pandemic. What the league should have done and gone to the IOC, and what the IOC and IIHF should have done has been like, look, I think we need to push this back a year. I don't think we're ready to do this as much as we want to go. And I think ultimately, I think the players decide as much as they want to go. I don't think they're going to go. I personally, again, will believe it when I see it. I personally don't think that the NHL players are going over to Beijing just because of besides the travel and risk of injury, is that the fact that your mental health is going to be tested for 3 to 5 weeks in quarantine with nothing. Yeah. It's not like you're going to. It's not like when they had a quarantine in the bubble, they had exercise stuff and everything. They're going to have nothing.
Is there a drop dead date for a decision on this, or
they say January 10th is the drop dead date, but not for NHL players. It's not.
Yeah. That's a good point.
No, it's 3 to 5. It's up. It could be up to 21 days or 5 weeks. That's what was coming out of the Board of Governors meeting, and that's what I've been told. Because of the fact that they have to travel back, coming back from China, and you're staying in China. You're not quarantining anyplace else. So that's the issue.
Right, and you can play, correct? Except for the time they're not shutting down the league for the Olympics, correct?
Yeah, they are. They're shutting down for 3 weeks.
Oh, they are.
They're going to shut down. They're going to go dark for 3 weeks because of the Olympics if they go. If they don't go, then they're going to have a week off so everybody can just rest because they always had a bye week now. And then they'll come back and play sporadic games throughout those 2 weeks and try to fill holes that buildings were left. This was not, as much as they pushed and pushed and pushed, this was something that should have been like, look, this is an extra thing we can discuss on the side and not put in the CBA because of what was going on. I don't think, and the owners don't want to go. Plain and simple, the NHL does not want to go, but they're leaving it in the players' hands.
Well, Kenny thinks we should boycott the games. I don't know how much I want to get into that anyway, because that's more of a political thing. And, it's to me, the sports need to be left out of politics and sports need to stay out of politics, and we'll all be happier.
Exactly.
It needs to be my escape from the real world.
Exactly. We do.
I need a place with some, different kind of insanity than the real world has. So, Jim, anything else you want to leave us with today before we say have a good Sunday?
No, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover today. Talk about the NHL.
Good stuff.
Before the holiday freeze is coming up soon, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we head towards the All-Star break coming up sometime in February. But they have the holiday roster freeze prior to Christmas, so no trades can happen.
We'll have some fun with the All-Star weekend. We'll have some fun with the Winter Classic at some point here. I don't know when that's up. Probably not till February or so, right?
Winter Classics January 1st.
Oh, is it New Year's Day? Oh,
New Year's Day.
We'll be talking about it soon then. Awesome. I love the Winter Classic. It's one of my favorite things. And they should do more of it, but maybe it would be overkill. I don't know. So we'll talk about that, though, in the coming weeks. And Jim, I appreciate you coming in with always the wealth of knowledge that you have, not just on hockey, but even your input on college football. So thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to talk in sports with you, especially college football and hockey. You have a good day. You
have an awesome Sunday, Jim. Bye-bye.
You too.
So Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. Guys, if you haven't watched Jim's show over on Mad Radio, watch it. They do a good job. And Jim's articles I will continue to share to the page. So what's Carl's got here? Talking about testing positive for COVID during the Olympic Games. Oh, well, there's so many different protocols out there. It's getting to be nonsensical in a way. I don't even want to get into the topic because it becomes a political conversation, and I just don't want to go there. I really don't. I'm an unhappy camper about things going on here in New York State and things going on across the country and mandates and political overreach, or government overreach, and I'm just not going to get into it. Anyway, thanks again to Jim Biringer, who always brings it. And guys, as I said, check out his stuff. His stuff is really good. His top 25 is posted to the site. I believe I posted an article, or I posted the show, I guess, yesterday, their Last Word on Hockey show. And I may have posted another article, but pay attention. There's really good stuff in there, by the way. So let's dive back into college football a little bit. The coaching carousel. First thing I want to talk about, a couple of recent hirings. Tony Elliott, the Clemson offensive coordinator, will be replacing Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia. This is a nice hire, especially since he's staying in the ACC. Dabo Swinney now has lost both his coordinators this offseason. As we know, Brett Venables went to Oklahoma as the head coach. So Dabo with some rebuilding to do on his coaching staff, but I have every confidence that he will do that. I'll talk about Mario Cristobal last. Mike Elko is going to God, where is he going? I can't read my writing. He was the AM. He's going to Duke. The offensive defense coordinator, from Texas A&M. Manny Diaz, who was out at Miami, is going to be the new defensive coordinator at Penn State. Good move for Manny. I think it's a good landing spot for him. Concentrate on defense. I don't think Manny is a head coach. And I got into this a little bit with Rick. Oh, thank you, Billy. I need Billy to be the producer of the show and just change the banners for me. Wouldn't that be better? Hang on now. Where are we? How come I don't have any banners for college football? Go back to this for a second. I had one this morning. I must have somehow got rid of it. Good grief. Very hard to keep things straight. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's leave this up here for now. College football we'll talk about for a little bit. Manny Diaz, I had some conversations back and forth with Rick Sherlock yesterday again, and I know some other people during the weekend. I'm not happy with the way that Miami, and I'll be honest with you, Marco Cristobal in general, there used to be a gentleman's agreement between coaches that, I'm not going to talk about coaches or jobs where you've already got a coach. Well, that's gone, right? They're interviewing him for weeks before they finally fired Manny and hired Marco Cristobal, but they weren't going to do that until they knew they didn't have a head coach. They knew they didn't want Manny. They should have just fired him. Now, with that said, I also don't feel sorry for Manny Diaz, because Manny Diaz did the same thing 4 years ago, took a job at Temple, recruited for 30 days, had kids commit to come to Temple, sat in their living rooms and said, I'll be here to bring you in and make you a better player. the next 4 years. And in 30 days, he went back to Miami when Mark Richt retired. So karma's a bitch, Manny. Again, I don't like the way this went down any more than anybody else. I have a huge problem with the way that every coach is a free agent. Always. It doesn't matter if you got a 20-year contract. Because colleges are not, and that's why they put these huge buyouts in to discourage this stuff. And it doesn't matter anymore. These colleges are paying $8 million, $10 million buyouts to get the coach that they want. And they're always a free agent, 100% of the time. Let's get a couple questions here. Oklahoma kept most of their offensive coaches aside from bringing in Jeff Lebby. Good move bringing in Jeff Lebby as the offensive coordinator. Brett Venable is a guy set up for success as fast as anybody. And I think it's going to be interesting with them moving to the SEC because Venable's been around the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic for so long with Clemson that his recruiting may have an impact there on Oklahoma as they move to the SEC in a much tougher situation for Oklahoma once that happens. Clemson will be at the bottom for a long time. I definitely disagree with that comment. Dabo Swinney is a terrific coach. Guys lose coordinators all the time. I'm not saying that's not a huge loss. They're both huge losses for this team, but they were going to go eventually. Venable had been offered, 10 head coaching jobs. He's been very picky about where he was going to go, and he got the perfect situation for him. I'm confident Dabo will turn this around. They turned it around at the end of the season and played much better football. As far as Notre Dame joining the ACC, I think it's a win-win situation for both parties. Notre Dame's fighting against it, obviously. They want to continue their independence so they don't have to share bowl money and TV money with other teams. But in the new reality of college football, it's going to be very, very hard to stay independent and be competitive for a national championship game. Notre Dame would have been played last weekend if they had played in an ACC championship game, for instance, right? So Notre Dame's got to make that move. We've talked about that for a while. Penn State, it's funny. Manny, I do think this is a great move for Manny and for Penn State. Manny needs to concentrate on defense. One of the ironic things about his tenure at Miami is how bad the defenses were when he was a head coach and how compared to how good they were when he was a defensive coordinator. I like Manny, but Manny left a bad taste in my mouth with some stuff. So Frankie's talking about the NFL. We'll get to that in a bit. I'm glad that the NFL, I'm surprised, has announced this. I didn't see it, Frankie, but I'll certainly take your word for it. I want to finish this year out before I worry about next year's opponents because we're going to get to the NFL in just a second. And we'll talk more about what's going on around the league and with our New England Patriots. Diaz is closer to championship than he was in Miami, it's for sure. There's a big rebuild to do in Miami. I think Cristobal will do very well in Miami. He's an alumni. Miami is throwing millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into the program. They've offered him, he's going to have the highest paid assistants before he gets done because he's got the money to spend. They're going to upgrade all of their practice facilities. Miami hasn't made a commitment to football like this in a while. Still, one of Miami's biggest problems, though, is playing 70 miles off campus, in my mind. And it's hard to get a crowd there that's 100% behind them if they come at all. Saban did the same thing. I don't know for sure what we're talking about there. Kenny, you might have to help me there. Will Chip Kelly end up back in Oregon? Good question, Frankie. I mean, the whispers are getting louder. I mentioned it on my Wednesday college football huddle show. The whispers are getting louder that Chip Kelly is being wooed by Oregon to return. Now, if I'm Chip Kelly, I'm not sure I do that. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. He's got something going in UCLA after 3 losing seasons. He's 8-4 this year in a bowl game. He's got Rattler coming in through the transfer portal. Don't know whether that's going to sway his decision or whether it'll make UCLA any better, quite frankly. But it's interesting to see what happens there. And again, look at, something, Frankie, what I'll tell you about college football coaches is nothing is guaranteed. I don't care, as I said a minute ago, if you got a 20-year contract, something's got to change. I know Carlos has brought this up in the past. I don't know what kind of rules you can put in as long as, colleges are going to be allowed to poach guys. Maybe they need to sit a year before they can go coach. But these guys, a contract extension, a buyout, it means nothing today. Nothing today. And this year has really, really showed that more than any other. Dabo Swinney has opportunities to move up to the NFL. Carlos, it's a good point. I mean, he's had offers in the past, to my knowledge, and always turned them down. And look at if they're going to be on a downswing, as Kenny said, and maybe he sees it. Maybe he won't get a better opportunity he has now to try the next level. We're always talking about it, and college coaches have a tough time. Some of them do okay. Dick Vermeil did fine. Nick Saban, well, he was in college first and then went back. But he went to the pros. He wasn't awful. And if he had taken Drew Brees, he'd probably still be in Miami. Potentially. I don't know. Who knows? Where was I going with that? Yeah, some of these guys, this might be his last shot. If he's going to be on a downswing, he may never have a better shot to go to the NFL than now. But he also sees how other top coaches have fared, and Urban Meyer hates it. He'll be there next year, it looks like now, but he hates it. Notre Dame will lose in the ACC deal. They'll lose money, maybe. But you know what? If I know Notre Dame, they're going to find a way to move and also probably keep their TV contract. Who the hell knows? They'll find some way to do it. And the competition, it would improve the competition in the league. No, it's not that bad. In my opinion, that league's talent is spread out now. It looks like it's much worse than it's been, only because they don't have a powerhouse there like Clemson. There's some really good teams in this league. Pittsburgh's good. Wake Forest is good on offense. They need a defense. Miami's going to rebound. I guarantee you, Miami, it may take a few years, but Miami will rebound. Look at that. That's hurt the ACC more than anything, by the way. They brought Florida State. They brought Miami in here, and they expected those teams to be in the championship game year in and year out, and it didn't happen. Kenny's talking about, you're right, Carlos, and it must be about Notre Dame losing in the deal. You know what? It depends on what losing depends on what their priorities are. If their priority is to make money, they lose. If their priority is to have a better chance at the playoff every year, then they win. You can't join a Power 5 conference and lose unless you're not competitive. Being independent is harder than a group of 5, as evidenced by this year's playoff, unless you're Notre Dame. But again, Notre Dame gets hurt because of the lack of a championship game. And I got to tell you, while we're on the topic of this, and you guys know how I feel about Cincinnati. I know how some other people feel about Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is going to give Alabama a competitive football game because they're physical, they're experienced, because they're not losing kids to the NFL every single year. You've got an experienced quarterback there who's been up and down. But he's again, been in some big games and played well and can do a lot of things. But Cincinnati, if they are not competitive, if they just get the doors blown off them, it's going to set the group of 5 chances back, I think, quite a ways as we go forward. Right now, it's been one team league, and now that team sucks. Well, no, it wasn't. Well, it was a one-team league because Clemson was so good. It does not mean there weren't other good teams in that conference. I think back over the last several years, Miami's had some good teams. They flopped come playoff time and bowl time, but they had some good teams under Mark Richt his last couple of years there. Pittsburgh, up and down. BC's had a couple of bad years, but they look to be better. Struggling now to come up with the teams that. Let me get into. Hold on a second. Let's go to the scoreboard. Let's go to the ACC real quick. I want to tell you some teams that I think are not bad teams in there. Wake Forest this year. Louisville's had some good teams through the years with Clemson, while Clemson was good. Miami, we talked about. Virginia Tech has had good teams over the years. North Carolina's up and down. Georgia Tech, until the last 4 years, has been a very good football team. Virginia, on and off. But, overall, it's not just Clemson and then a bunch of stinkers. Clemson was really, really good. A dominant team. They're not as deep as the SEC. Nobody's saying they're as deep as the SEC or the Big Ten. They're as good as the freaking Pac-12. I mean, tell me they're not as good as the Pac-12. That league stinks. Yep, we did that. Hold on, where was I? It's one team league. Okay, we got that. Allen no name promises to pay promise to pay 5. ACC hurt them. I'm not sure where that's going, Kenny. Even though Notre Dame gets the ACC, goes the ACC, if they win, they will have huge problems in championships games. Well, that's their history, right? Notre Dame can't recruit the same guys that Alabama and Georgia can recruit because of the academic standards. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I'm not, and they've lowered them, as I think Kenny can attest to. They're still pretty tough compared to other schools. But again, they're going to have that problem until they do that, or they force some of these other schools to have higher academic standards. And these are student athletes, after all. Oh, Manny Diaz. Gotcha. I think when you said you agree, I gotcha. It's funny because I start to fall behind on the comments. I don't know which ones are referring back to which ones. Funny thing about the NFL scheduling, we'll get into that in a bit. Jason Garrett should leave. You know what? Not a bad idea for Jason Garrett to consider a college coaching gig, and UCLA might be a good spot for him if Chip left. That not a bad idea. I don't know if he's going to get a major college coaching job right now, though. Jason Garrett needs to do something to rehabilitate his reputation. I think Jason Garrett was a good offensive coordinator in Dallas. I don't think all the things that went wrong in Dallas when he was a head coach are his fault, but Georgia Tech until look at right now, Georgia Tech, Duke, UNC will step back up next year. Florida State will rebound at some point, and that's probably something you and I will talk about on our Friday show. I think at some point is the state of the Florida teams in general, and maybe we'll be talking about this ACC. But these teams right now, great. Duke's never been good, but everybody's got bottom feeders. Duke's a better football team than Vanderbilt. I know that. Georgia Tech, through the years, they won a national championship. I know it was a long, long time ago, but it's not like they've been historically a bad team. They're historically a pretty good football team, and they're on a downward swing here these last 3-4 years. Carlos, you're killing me. Another topic. Might have to get in that one the next 2 weeks, Carlos. Demi-task. Thank you. Gosh. I want to raise the hands. You guys are in the room here. Who the hell knew that these little tiny spoons that they put in a teacup or even for coffee when you go out was called the demi-task? The waiter didn't know. The waiter had to go ask somebody in the kitchen. So who else knows what a demi-task spoon is? Look on my Facebook page and you'll see it. How do I think Cincinnati, SMU, and Houston will fare in the Big 12? There's a fourth. It's BYU is the fourth team, Alan. Look at. I think all of these teams have a chance to probably win that league at some point, depending on their recruiting. SMU's got to replace Sonny Dykes. They did replace Sonny Dykes, but they've got to replace his recruiting skills in the state of Texas. So I think these teams will be competitive out there. I really do. And I got to believe that's one of the reasons that Luke Fickell's sticking around Cincinnati is he wants to be there when they make this move. So I like the move for these teams. It's a fun league. And I think these teams, they did the best they could do in replacing, two stalwarts in Oklahoma and Texas. Kenny says, to me, no one conference will compete year in, year out with the SEC. Well, that's what the SEC is doing is because they're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. As we expand, they did it in 2012 when they brought in A&M and they brought in Missouri. They might have brought in Arkansas that year. I'm not sure. They might have already been there. I can't remember. And now they've done it again when they bring in Oklahoma and Texas. And while some of those teams may struggle, I would think to me, college football would be much better off. Texas A&Ms of the world and the Arkansas of the world would have been much better off. The Nebraskas of the world would have been much better off without this first realignment that we had back in 2012. And if the old Southwest Conference was still in play and you had Texas and Texas A&M and Arkansas and TCU and Baylor, that's a really viable power conference, and it doesn't even exist anymore because of this realignment. I didn't know we were going to get into college this long, guys. We're going to be hurting for the NFL. Don't be surprised. You're going to say that every week until he picks a school, Rick. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to any one of 10 schools. I can see Manny going to Ole Miss because of the family connection. I can see him going to LSU. I can see him going to Georgia. I can see him going to Alabama. Sorry. I could see him going to one of the Florida schools if that was, the situation was right. Who knows? Maybe even Oklahoma or Texas now that they're in the SEC. This is wide open. It's too early. I mean, is he in 10th grade now? I don't even know where he is. Lombardi couldn't win with them. You've really lost me there, Carlos. I don't know what that one is. I was wondering what they were when I saw your post. So you don't know. I did remember BYU. Zach Wilson should go back to BYU. Yeah, but I don't know that you can actually go to the pros and go back and get that eligibility back. Arkansas was already there, were they? Yeah, they moved sooner. But again, that Southwest Conference broke up. I agree. I think Arkansas went to a good point, Carlos. I believe Arkansas went to the SEC when Texas, Oklahoma went to the Big 12, and the Southwest Conference broke up at that point. Oklahoma can build into the top. They're going to have trouble, Alan, in my mind. It'll take a few years. They're not going to be – they'll be okay. They're going to be competitive, but they're not going to be in the playoff picture year in and year out like they would be in the Big 12. They're just not. Manning and any other legacy shouldn't have to pass only test to attend for football. I'm not sure Why? Eli would not pass an extra exam for Notre Dame. Well, that would go for a lot of quarterbacks. Guys wouldn't pass the Notre Dame entrance fee, that's for sure. All right, we'll move on. We'll get to the NFL. Let's jump into the NFL quick because we're gonna have Mark Mancini coming up here in 20 minutes or so. Actually, less than that. So let me look real quick. We'll recap last week's. I know Kenny's has told me he will not be picking anymore because it's too hard to pick Kenny. I don't know what to tell you because how the heck can there be? I must be in the wrong thing here. I am in the wrong thing. I wish I knew what to tell you. They're free sites and, you get what you get. And I haven't been logged out. Mine hasn't logged out the entire season. So I apologize for the inconvenience, and I'll buy you an extra beer when we get together. I'm thinking our holiday get together will be probably after the holiday, but things are just getting so busy. Yikes. Here we go. I want to get into some of these games, and I know that Alan had some questions and stuff. So real quick, big winners last week. TGI Sports Talk continues its roll up the standings with 11 wins. Mark Doe has 9, stays near the top. Kenny, I think, got in, by the way, because you had picks last week, Kenny. You had 8 winners. Drew had 8 winners. Carlos, Mark Robertshaw, all at 9. Good job, guys. And then we get down near the bottom, Ryan, Mike, and Mickey, and then the rest. Rick, did you pick last week, did I see? Rick gave up 2. Well, it is what it is. Maybe next year we'll try for something different. It's hard. I'm not paying for a site, and you don't have any admin rights unless you do. SARS total points, Mark's at 112. I'm at 102. Ryan is at 100, and everybody else is kind of also Rams because guess what? I'm not making up 10 games in these next 5 weeks, probably. 4 weeks. So probably not going to happen. But anyway, there's where we stand on the picks. Let's get into some football chatter. Where am I here? Any comments there? Yeah, I know, Kenny. I just apologize. It sucks. Only in women's soccer. I don't know what that comment's about. Oklahoma, Texas, 6A, Missouri, Arkansas, and the SEC Southwest. I still don't know how they're doing it. Are they having 3 divisions? What are they? I don't even know what they're doing to break that league up. It's something I got to dive into, I guess. Oh, I didn't do my picks. I'm going to do them right now. Let's look at, we still got some time. I want to look at last week's games a little bit, and I'll dive back in. Lions catch the Broncos. Cowboys rebound against the name redacted. I like the Redskins today. Sorry, I'm going to have to put another $1 in the jar, or $10. Southwest Athletic Conference, I think. Isn't that what I said? What I say, Carlos? I thought I said Southwest. Let's real quick. I want to take a look at the standings real quick, and then we'll get into my picks for the week. Maybe I'll have to do them when Mark's on. And that'll be part of our picks. Maybe he and I will go through and do them all. I don't know. We'll see. I had the standings up here and they disappeared on me. So we got to go back. Oh, because I had the Patriots up. That's why. Wonder why I did that. AFC East, guys. Patriots in total control if Broncos beat, which I will predict. Well, that'll be one of my bets today. It's only 3.5. I do not know why. Buffalo on the road in Tampa Bay and reeling. Patriots in first place could be a 2-game lead. Patriots got to be careful next week in a little trap situation against the Colts, though. Dolphins playing better football could come back. The Ravens are a game ahead of the Bengals. The Steelers are in disarray. We'll talk about the Steelers with Mark Mancini. That's his team. Okay, I have more lateral movement than freaking Big Ben at 61 years old. Oh my God, that was painful to watch the other night. Dave Traver, the big Cowboy fan. I like the Redskins today, Dave. Sorry. We'll talk about those picks here in a second. I like the Bengals still to win that North. I really do. And there could be 3 teams come out of there for the playoffs. Who knows? You're going to start to see some separation, hopefully, between these 6 and 7 teams and 6 and 6 teams soon. Baltimore Colts. God, what year is this? 80. Indianapolis Colts 7-6, playing really good football at the moment. Probably the best running back, especially with Derrick Henry out in the league, in Jonathan Taylor. Patriots are going to have a hard time stopping him. And one thing where they've been weak, they weren't the other night because the Bills have no running game, but they got 270 yards rushing to the Titans 2 weeks ago and only gave up 13 points, which is impressive. So they bend, but don't break. Kansas City, written off earlier in the year, now on a 5-game winning streak. Things starting to look up there. They got a big game today against the Raiders, who are only 2 games behind them. The Chargers sit just a game behind them. This division, and surprisingly, the Broncos are at 6-6 in my mind. That's a big surprise. So this division is still wide open. I think the Chiefs make the playoffs. And we'll talk more about the playoff situation as we get closer to it. But I think the Patriots are in a catbird seat to get to host every game in the AFC playoffs that they are able to move forward into. The NFC East, the Cowboys got a 2-game lead over the Redskins, the team formerly known as the Redskins, but the Redskins are red hot. They won 4 in a row. Heineke's playing well. That defense is starting to come back. They were awful early in the year. I thought they were the best defense in football heading into the season, and they've been awful since. Awful at the beginning of the year, and they've been much better recently. Can't count out the Eagles, who I'm shocked are 6-7. I'm just not sold on Jalen Hurts, but look at they're playing some decent football. They're scoring some points. I'm very surprised. And the Giants, it's over. It might be time to see Jake Fromm's going to play quarterback, I think, today. One of you Giant fans can confirm that for me, but I believe Jake Fromm's going to play. I've always been kind of high on Jake Fromm. I'll bet you Rick Sherlock. I hope Rick Sherlock would have some good things to say about him. He played some good football at Georgia. Not quite good enough maybe to get past Alabama. But I followed this kid again. He's one of the kids I followed on the show that I talked about, QB1, on Netflix, along with Sam Hartman and Josh Fields. They were all spotlighted in this during their high school senior years. And it was very interesting. And I like Jake Fromm's makeup. And who knows, if I'm a Giants, I just play him the rest of the year and just see if you fall into something. The North, I'll get your guys' comments in a second. The North, I got to do my picks. The North, the Packers are it's probably done. The Vikings did get a win yesterday. They're still in the playoff hunt. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they may be in the playoffs right now. The Bears, not going to happen this year. The Lions stink. Tampa Bay, starting to get it together. 1-3 in a row. They had their midseason malaise. We'll see what happens. They got the Buffalo Bills today, and I liked them today a lot. Probably one of my bets. Carolina's fallen on hard times. We know they fired Joe Brady recently, their offensive coordinator. The Falcons, very up and down and also very injured. They're not going to make a run here. But look at all these 5-7 teams are still alive. In the NFL, you got parity. There's no really good football teams in the league this year. Maybe the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe the Patriots. We'll see. If they run the table, I'm going to say they're a really good team. I would expect them to stumble somewhere, and it could possibly be next week against the Colts. So we'll see. And the West, not quite as strong as we thought it would be. The Cardinals playing great football. Really good defensive football is what's really helped this team because they score a lot of points. We know that, but they're one of the better defensive teams as far as points allowed in the league. Rams have not played up to other people's expectations. I was not high on this team. I'm not a Matthew Stafford fan. I think he's a very good NFL quarterback, but I don't think he's a guy to get you over the top. And then you got the 49ers who are playing better football of late, lost last week, but they have gotten themselves to 6-6, and Seattle's buried. All right, let's get to your comments here. And we'll do my picks whenever we can. I have to do them while Mark's on with us. I don't know. We got a lot of comments here. David, the Go Cowboys, NFC East all play each other final weeks. That's kind of what the NFL sets this up. I think it happens in the AFC East as well, except for the Jets and Patriots. No Logan Thomas, no Chase Young. I understand. But they've been playing with injuries all year. Joke will play. Well, that's good. I don't know who that is. Nope, Joke will play. I missed something. Anyway, Alan, what do you got here? I think I missed. Hold on, I missed a couple here. Let me go back up. I think I jumped ahead or something. There we go. Yes, Jake Fromm starts. Listen, I just want to see what he's got. I don't know that he's got anything. Maybe he won't be an NFL quarterback, but look, the Giants need to figure something out. Why didn't Washington fire the defensive coordinator? Because it was the damn player's fault. Every situation is not the same, though, Kenny. I mean, you don't fire guys just for the sake of firing them. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying every time you fire somebody, it has an impact, but sometimes it does. I'll give you an example. A great example. Raymond Berry with the New England Patriots. I'll just leave you with that. Glennon will start past. If they start Mike Glennon, they're just stupid. I mean, why are you starting Mike Glennon? What is the point of playing Mike Glennon and not playing Jake Fromm? I know Jake Fromm's only been there a week, but Mike Glennon is not, there's no reason to play him. None. Packers, look at, the Packers, I'm still not a fan of the Packers, and I'm probably colored because of my dislike for their quarterback. I always liked Aaron Rodgers until the last couple of years. His COVID toe is going to bother him for the rest of the year, apparently. I think they're going to wrap that division up. I mean, they got a 3.5 game lead, and there's no way they're not going to win that. Concussion protocol. Packers stink. Just go to Blue Origin and don't come back. Jets go on Blue Origin and don't come back. I don't even know what Blue Origin is, but it's funny. They're in a weak division. Dave Traber, welcome back to the show, Dave. Cowboys, I didn't say good morning to you this morning, David. Good morning. Cowboys defense gets starters back today. Can't wait. Big game. It's a huge game for sure. And I've been a big proponent of the Cowboys this year. I just think they're going to get a good run here from the Redskins. Damn it. I'm going to get kicked off Facebook again. Cowboys are at full strength. I get it. Shanahan said, well, I've been waiting. We haven't got that. We've been talking about the NFL for 20 minutes, and Carlos just now says Shanahan's system is terrible. So when you talk about the tree of coaches, you're talking about his father's tree of coaches, I'm assuming, correct? Mike Shanahan. And you could be right. I'd have to look at it. The only person I'm thinking of off the top of my head is his son, but we'll see. 1950. Oh, God, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. Oh, 1950. Oh, you're talking about, no, it was 1985. 1985. Blue Origin is Jeff. Oh, Blue Origin. I knew that name. They should say, ow. It wouldn't be good for business to send them up there and they didn't come back. COVID toe, good one. Love it. Yeah, COVID toe. What a knucklehead. He's got COVID brain. That guy, I'm telling you. Well, we're going to have Mark in here in a few minutes. What else we want to talk about in the NFL? What do you guys got? We'll talk a few things with Mark. Last week, Broncos. Well, let me go through my picks quick. Mark will have to sit and wait for a couple minutes. I'll give you my picks, and I'll tell you the three that I'll bet if I can think of them as I'm going along here. So real quick. Oh, Mark's going to call on the phone. Damn it. That's all right. No problem. All right. I picked the Steelers over the Vikings, so I'm already 0 for 1. How stupid am I? I will take the Browns over the Baltimore Ravens today. I don't know why. I like the home team here. They got the better quarterback, the Ravens do. They got the better coach. But I just expect the Browns to maybe step up at home. I think the Tennessee Titans will kill Jacksonville today and cover the 9.5-point spread. I will take the 9.5 with the Raiders over Kansas City. I just think they'll keep this game close. I expect Kansas City to win it, but I think it might be a touchdown, 8 points. The Saints, I'll take 5.5 against the Jets. I just cannot pick the Jets. Give me 15 points. Maybe I'm taking them. I will take the team formerly known as the Redskins -3.5 or +3.5 at home against the Cowboys. That likely will be one of my wagers as well. Hello, Mark Mancini. How are you?
How are you, buddy?
Good. Hang on 1 second. I'm just finishing up my NFL picks, and then we'll jump over to your topic. So hang on. Let me get through here. I was trying to get him in quick. We had a long talk about college football today.
They missed you. They missed you Thursday. I said, yeah, it's probably a little too late for Keith, man. He's worn down.
I apologize for not getting in there, but let me finish this up, and then we'll chat some more. So the Falcons, I'll take the Falcons +2.5 over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are in disarray. Firing Joe Brady, again, to Kenny's point, I guess. Now I'm going to feed into your argument, Kenny. I don't see how that's going to help them. He's a very good offensive mind, and he's going to have another job in the NFL as an offensive coordinator, and at some point, likely a head coach in my mind. Seattle -7.5 over the Texans. It's a lot of points on the road for a team like Seattle, but the Texans are just a mess. I'll take the Broncos -8.5 against the Lions. I'll lay the 10.5 against the Chargers against the Giants, and if they're playing Mike Glennon, they really need to rethink what's going on there. I'll take the Bengals. The Bengals will be a wager for Keith today, -1.5 against the San Francisco 49ers, traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast. Never like that. I will be betting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, only 3.5-point favorites over Buffalo, and Buffalo will be 2.5 games. Sorry, 2 full games behind the New England Patriots. I have no choice but to take COVID toe Packers against the Bears -12.5. And Monday night, Mark Mancini will like this pick, and maybe that's where we'll start here. I will take the Arizona Cardinals to defeat the Los Angeles Rams by that 2.5 points. With that, we welcome in Mr. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. How are you, Mark?
Oh, my God, man. This is the show that's sweeping the country on Sundays. Turn off the local news. Turn off CNN. Turn off everything, man. The Sunday grind with you running this thing, baby. This is the coup de grace across the country.
Well, some days when we're not having, technical difficulties or whatever. But it's fun. I have fun. We had Jim Biringer around earlier. We talked about hockey and some college football stuff. So a lot of hockey stuff going on.
Penguins last night, man. I was watching that 1-0 over the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Yeah, baby.
Well, we might have to.
We're tough.
We might have to get you in with Jim but Jim comes on early, so it's gonna be hard for you to get up at 6 a.m. to be on with Jim. But maybe we can make that happen and talk some hockey between you guys at some point. So we'll start with, because I know you wanted to talk about this Monday night game, the Rams and the Cardinals. So let's go there first. I like the Cardinals to really solidify their hold on this division, and maybe a stranglehold on this division with a win Monday night. You being that big Los Angeles fan that you are, what are your thoughts on this game?
Most hated man in Los Angeles. I'll tell you one thing. I got to wear the bulletproof vest and look like the unknown comic when I'm driving. But I will tell you this. The Rams, I don't know what it is. It might be the glitz and glamour of this city, but everybody's, enthralled with bringing guys to make up teams to do something. We saw in 2004 when they brought in Peyton and Malone to go with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, and you saw how that worked out. The Dodgers have tried that, bringing in high-priced guys to blend together. The chemistry didn't work. And now you see with the Rams. Last year they were all in with Jalen Ramsey. This year they're all in bringing Von Miller and, Odell Beckham. Doesn't work. I will tell you this. You can probably take to the bank in cash. The Rams aren't going nowhere. They won't go nowhere in the next year. And then Sean McVay's going to have a choice. Either does he become a full-time actor or does he do full-time commercials for Enterprise? That will be the thing that you can take to the bank in cash, because this guy's going to be completely out of a job. He's got his quarterback that he wanted, and the quarterback really ain't that good. I mean, let's face it, I'm 60 years old, 6 decades of watching the Detroit Lions, 6 decades of no quarterbacks there, and I can go back to Eric Kipple and Scott Mitchell. So the Rams will – the Undertaker is outside Phoenix right now. Well, yeah, but, I'm just not those – I need that flash guy. I need that Heisman type. I need that big-name guy.
I was being facetious mostly. So.
Right, but the Droods – the Caskets, the Undertaker, the Paul Bear, they're all outside Phoenix. They're getting ready to bury these Rams once and for all, put the nails in the coffin and drive them back to L.A.
Well, to me, everything that we talked about, it all revolves around the quarterback, and they thought they had this big upgrade. I really liked Matthew Stafford. Don't get me wrong, but he has never, and I've heard teams say, guys say, he never had good teams. He had really the guy played with a Hall of Fame wide receiver. It doesn't like he had no talent to play with in Detroit. And Matthew Stafford is a good NFL quarterback, but he's not a guy to put somebody over the top. And this is what I said when this trade was made. And I thought the Rams gave up way too much. And he's not the guy to lead you. And they may have to start over there again, in my mind, next year.
Well, when was the last time the Lions won a division? I think it's been 1990. When was the last time they won a playoff? Maybe 93. This is a long time coming for these suffering fans of Detroit. Yeah. The only thing they have really in Detroit is that 25-year playoff streak that the Detroit Red Wings built up, or go back to the 84 Tigers or the bad boys of the Pistons. But other than that, man, their football team has been horrendous. Yeah. Coaches have come in there. I like Bobby Ross when he was there, but this guy right now that's leading the thing, he's more suited to be a promoter in the MMA.
Well, and Alan says the Lions had playoff teams with Stafford there. And Alan, I didn't mean to misspeak. I didn't mean to imply they didn't make the playoffs. My point is they never won a playoff game, even though he had one of the best weapons in football at wide receiver. And I understand football's not a 2-position game. I get that. But they just have not – he didn't get that team over the top, and he's not the kind of guy who can carry a team on his back. So that's my point.
Well, not only that, the Heisman Trophy candidate that fell short, the defensive guy there in Michigan, he's a hometown guy, and he says, get me out of this town. Please, he doesn't want even the Detroit Lions to draft him. Well, he grew up liking the New England Patriots. So there you go.
It's funny. I got to put this comment up. So I made a comment about the wide receiver. And Kenny says, one receiver, holy crap. Tell Brady he gets one receiver, and we all know how that turned out. Listen, let me tell you something about this, Kenny. Let's not forget, you guys all only remember he had the best receiver in football one time, and that was Randy Moss, and they did not make the Super Bowl. The first 3 Super Bowls that they won in New England, he had wide receivers named Troy Brown, who was a nice player, but he's not a Hall of Famer, and he's nowhere near Calvin Johnson, not even close. David Patton, David Givens, Deion Branch, nice players, not a Hall of Famer among them. So please don't tell me Tom Brady has only won because of the wide receivers he's had to throw to. And Wes Welker, nice player. Julian Edelman, nice player. No, neither of them are going to Hall of Fame.
Well, first of all, I love Kenny dearly, but first of all, when you look at what Brady's been dealt with in New England, he's had, Dunkin' Donut employees running the ball for him, to a certain extent. Auto mechanics, car salesmen, no disrespect. The guy's a proven winner. All I kept hearing in the heyday was, him and Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's Dan Fouts with a Super Bowl ring. That's all he is. Then we hear about these other State Farm quarterbacks and Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. These guys can't compete with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a driven guy. He sets the bar, and everybody else is trying to get it, and everybody else ain't going to get it. He's got more Super Bowls than some teams have ever been to the Super Bowl.
Let's circle back, Gray. And you know what? It's not. Yes, he's been surrounded by great players now in Tampa, and he's older, and he needs that help. But they won with some mediocre wide receiver. No, I shouldn't say mediocre. Decent wide receivers, not Hall of Fame players. Let's circle back to Detroit. Because Alan is talking about how he likes Dan Campbell and they had some close games, just couldn't finish it. I don't disagree with that. But when you got a guy, and Hutchinson, by the way, to circle back to that comment you made, Mark, he better watch out because he's very likely to be the number one pick in the draft, and the Lions will have that pick almost certainly, or the Texans. And either way, he's going to a really bad football team, and I think there's a very good chance he's a number 1 or 2 pick in the draft.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. But getting back to Dan Campbell, I look at him close. I'm trying to see if he's any relation or maybe there's a long-lost cousin to Jack Lambert there. But as far as the whole thing, the press conference, we're going to break kneecaps and you're going to hit me, then I'm going to hit you. I mean, come on, man. What are we trying to do? Sell tickets to the unknown comics in Detroit? It's a bad team, man. Yeah. Realistically, this is a bad team that hasn't got better for a lot of decades. I don't know if they have to sell a team. They've had Greg Millen there or whatever, or the other Millen or from the 49ers try to run the organization or, it's just a bad organization. And when you look at the 4 major sports, it's probably leading the pack. It's probably the worst run franchise across the 4 major sports. It hasn't done anything in 6 decades.
Yeah, and I will agree with Alan's comment about Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell has done as good a job as he could do with this team. This team is devoid of talent, more than any, maybe other than the Texans, in football. And he has had them on the verge of winning against really good teams. But again, I think he's not going to be held accountable for this mess, and he's going to get at least a couple more years to straighten it out. But the problem is, and Kenny's making a comment too, that he wasn't, maybe I was off target with his comment. He was pointing out that Detroit hasn't had a good team since 1976. They had a couple playoff teams with Wayne Fonts, but again, they were very
good running backs in the city. I will tell you that they've had good running backs in the city. Well, Sims and Sanders, and maybe things start with S there, but they've had the running backs in that system. They, but the quarterbacks, I've never been a big fan of them. And you can throw Scott Mitchell in that realm of things too. They're just bad quarterbacks. This is a downtrodden franchise that hasn't got better, and it kind of reminds me of growing up with the old Rockies, the Colorado Rockies, the hockey team, KOA Rocky Hockey. That was a Mickey Mouse operation that Wayne Gretzky seemed to, implore when they moved to New Jersey. So this is a Mickey Mouse operation. I'll take the flack out of Detroit, bring it. And until you do something, I'm going to pass out bags in that city.
Well, since we're talking about bad football teams and bad situations, let's go to your favorite team and your hometown team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I look at, Mark, I'm 61 years old and I've got better lateral movement than Big Ben has right now. That guy is a sitting duck. When you give him time, he can throw, they came back from 29-0 down to make it a game at least. But if you don't give him, 30 seconds in a pocket, he's got no chance. What is this team going to do? What's the plan?
I'll tell you one thing. I will call my hometown boys out too. They're terrible. They barely beat a Baltimore team. Then they put an egg out there in Minnesota on Thursday night. Tomlin needs to go. A lot of people in Pittsburgh say that's cruel, Mark. Tomlin doesn't need to go. Let him move on his own thing. I go, no, Tomlin needs to go. And, and a lot of people will probably back me up on that. He's had this team for, the last 4 years. They've done absolutely nothing. It's squarely been on Mike Tomlin. Now they're starting to blame Big Ben a little bit. What happened to the years when the Jaguars came in there the first time in 10 years and beat them in the same season? Yeah. Railroaded them in the playoffs. Then the next year, Big Ben goes down against Seattle. Tomlin's got the reins of it, and they only needed to win one game. Tennessee steals the playoff game, that year. Then last year, they're undefeated. And then, Cleveland railroads him at the end of the year, and Tomlin goes, "Oh, we'll get him back in Cleveland." Cleveland puts up like 30 on them first quarter in the playoff game. So Tomlin's to blame here. And Tomlin knows it, and he might have to sneak out of town. I mean, he needs to go. I've never been a big fan of him since the last 4 years. I've called it. And until they get a coach in there, you can put all the blame anybody wants on Big Ben, but the real blame needs to go on Mike Tomlin.
Well, partly, I mean, I've always liked Mike Tomlin, but lately, I mean, this team got away from the identity they had for years. It was defense and, running the football. And then now they become, we're just trying to outscore the opposition every week. And, Ben Roethlisberger is another guy who's a good NFL quarterback. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings, right? Can't be bad. But he's not a guy you go out there and throw the ball 60 times a game and you're going to be successful. And you've seen that in the last, as you said, 3 years anyway. And they've changed that whole identity of the team. Now, let me add one more thing, though. And Rick kind of agrees they should fire Tomlin. But I think if they find a way to do this, I think this organization prides themselves in the fact that they haven't fired a head coach since 1969. They've all left on their own volition. And I think however this ever hashes out, it'll look like Mike Tomlin resigned, because I don't think the Steelers want to fire him. I think they enjoy the fact that they've had that continuity. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the real thing is here is, their offensive line's beat up. Najee Harris, he's going to be a decade running back in that city.
Yep.
They've never had that adequate backup since Gilliam backed up Bradshaw in the 70s. It's been a cast of characters. Yeah, they got the Super Bowls and everything, but they've never drafted and groomed that quarterback to replace Big Ben, because they kept going back to the well and trying to get more gold out of it, and there's no more gold. So you got to get a quarterback in there. There was a lot of quarterbacks they could have brought in there now. And this Haskins guy, he didn't do anything in Washington. He's not going to do nothing in Pittsburgh. And Rudolph, I've seen this dog and pony show. Go get an adequate backup to replace Big Ben.
This is a problem. Big Ben said he will not be back he's certain, right? He won't be back in Pittsburgh, which means he'll probably retire. They can't this is a weak draft for quarterbacks, and they're not going to be drafting that high, because they'll probably finish around 500, although you can't finish at 500 anymore, but around that. And so they're not going to be in the top, 10 or 12 picks. So how do they fix this quarterback situation? Who's going to play? Those 2 guys you mentioned cannot be the starter next year, or they're going to win 3 games.
Well, not only that, it's the toughest division in football, bar none. Look at, you got Burrow and the Bengals running. The Ravens are all there, as long as Harbaugh and Jackson and company are. And then you got the Cleveland Browns that, they're having a down year right now, but yeah, you got to get hurrying, fast in this division. And who knows what they're going to do? Hopefully Kenny Pickett can land in their lap, the hometown kid, but who knows?
I don't know if he'll fall that far.
Trade.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll fall that far. Maybe they can trade up. I don't know what they got. It depends on the capital they got and how far they can move up in the draft, because I think Pickett's going to be in the first part of that first round. I got to believe, right?
Yeah, and maybe you can get him, see what you can do with him, and if you can get him, groom him, but they got to do something. You're right. The Rudolphs, the Haskins, these guys aren't going to cut it. They got to go get a quarterback to lead them, somebody that has grit, and these guys just don't have that grit of that Pittsburgh weather and everything. I need somebody that's going to get in the trenches. Hell, bring back Jack Lambert. Maybe he play quarterback for him. It's
interesting you said that, because Alan has a comment where he's talking about this past year they needed to draft in the trenches but opted for the running back. They have some good skill players but can't block a cold. So I don't disagree. This is, we're good. Good football teams are built on the trenches on both sides, offensive lines and defensive lines, and those are the cornerstone of good football teams. And if you don't have those, you're in trouble.
No, I definitely agree with you.
And Kenny also thinks they shouldn't fire him, get a new quarterback, some offensive players. The defense is good enough. I disagree. That defense is not good enough to win. The Minnesota Vikings ran all over that team for 3 quarters the other night, and I just don't see that as a good football team.
I'll tell you who's good enough to win. Everybody keeps laughing at me, and that's my NFC team. Hail to the Skins, my friend. 4 in a row, and they'll roll the Cowboys tonight.
And hold on, before we go back there, you're right. Let me finish up with Alan's hearing rumors of Aaron Rodgers and COVID toe to Pittsburgh next year. I would not wish that on anybody.
Yeah, you never know. He likes to go to Pittsburgh. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will end up there. But while we're on that subject, and I know you got a lot of them out here, how the hell do you put the Packers and Bears on a Sunday night? I can't watch these games, man. Every time the Packers and Bears play, and the Bears are horrendous, whether it's a Thursday night, a Sunday night, a Monday night, yeah. I need to watch reruns of Yellowstone, man. I can't watch this.
Well, they got first run episodes of Yellowstone on now, so you can do that. And then see what the score is. That's what I do, unless the Patriots are playing. You started to talk about our next topic, the rise of the Redskins, which you had brought up to me, and I was happy you did because I was talking about it earlier, and I've talked about it for a couple of weeks. This team has been improving. Their defense was horrendous early in the year. It's playing much better. Henneke is playing really good at quarterback, and I said early in the year, even if Fitzmagic started, he got hurt, so he didn't start, but I think he played a quarter, didn't he? He got hurt.
Yep.
This kid, it's benefited him because he has grown as the season's gone on, and this team has gotten better and better and better. 2 games behind the Cowboys. Huge game with the Cowboys today.
Well, let me tell you something. For a year and a half, all I've been hearing is the name change, the sexual misconduct, season ticket holders going on boat rides through the Caribbean. They lose their quarterback in the first quarter against the Chargers. Chase Young goes down. They circled the wagons. They were 2-6. They won 4 in a row. They control the destiny. And I always said, when I look at these guys, look at their last 5. It doesn't matter who's in front of this thing. They control it. Mm-hmm. They got the Cowboys, too. They got the Eagles, too. They got the Giants. And let me tell you something about the Cowboys. The Cowboys really aren't that good. If you were back there throwing last week, you probably would have beat them. 4 interceptions in like 5 minutes gave the Cowboys the win there. The Cowboys barely beat New England. This is not a good team, the Cowboys. They got a defense maybe. They got this and that a little bit. But I will tell you this. The Redskins knows what's at stake today. They'll roll them, and then they'll roll them the day after Christmas in Dallas.
Kenny wants to call them Washington Traitors. We shouldn't label a football team based on the rest of the city, Kenny.
Well, the name will be next year. They'll come up with the name next year. You know what? If you take the red out of it, call them the Washington Skins.
You know what? I personally think they're going to stick with what they got. I just feel like, it's working. So why worry about it? Why do we have to have the Washington football team? It seems to work. I love the helmets.
You saw what they did in Cleveland. They called them the Guardians. So when the Guardians play the Angels this year, this is going to be they might have to bless the field.
Aside from Tampa, I don't know who have they played that has challenged them. 2 key defensive players out against the Cowboys, full strength. I like Taylor Henneke, but no name redacted go down. Alan's a Cowboy fan, obviously. So is Dave Travers in the room today. So we got some Cowboy backers here today.
Yeah, you got the Cowboy fans. They still think Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin there. That's no problem. America's team. What do you mean America's team? What have you won? You had Tony Romo in there that couldn't do nothing. Now you're bringing Dak Prescott. I love Dak Prescott. Loved him when he came into the league. But, Ezekiel Elliott, this is when was the last time Ohio State quarterbacks even lasted in the NFL? Now I'm beginning to think about these running backs that are coming in the NFL from that part of the woods. Boy, now I'm going to feel it from Ohio, too, now.
That's all right.
I've got it from Michigan. I've got it from Ohio now.
Don't worry, because we've already I've told the group before you got here, there's like a $10,000 reward for anybody that can locate you in Los Angeles for the Los Angeles fans. So,
well, I'm telling you, I'm excited, man. I'm ready for the swag bowl between Michigan and Alabama. You got, the rat poison versus, Harbaugh throwing up the bird at all these guys. I love it, man. This is going to be a good one.
Rick is mentioning Washington Bullets is available for the name of the team.
Yeah, Washington Bullets. Yeah.
Very funny.
Who's going to coach? Wes Unseld?
Just a quick story about that. When the Washington Bullets were in existence and they decided to change their name, and the rumor, the reason they were changing it from Bullets is because of the violence in Washington, and they didn't want to be associated with the violence, so they were going to remove bullets from their name. But I remember one columnist, so this isn't my original thought, they thought if they wanted to really remove themselves, from the violence issue, they should just leave the name Bullets and take the name Washington out of it. So
well,
I remember that back in the 70s.
You know what we're going to have? We're going to have a bird movement moving around, circling Seattle, Arizona, Philadelphia, seeing we got to get rid of these names next too.
What? Yeah, everything's offensive to somebody. Patriots will be offensive to somebody who's not a Patriot someday, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, the Patriots are offensive to everybody every week because they're just so damn good.
Listen, staying on football for a second here, one more second, Mark. What are your thoughts on Bryce Young winning the Heisman? I think it's the right choice. Again, you can debate all you want about what the Heisman Trophy should be, but Bryce Young won it the way people win Heismans. He had a Heisman moment against Auburn when he took that team 98 yards with a minute 20 left. That was a defining moment for him in his season. And then to have that big game to back it up, last week.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm a little biased. I wanted Pinkett to win it, but you know what? I'm happy for Bryce Young. You know, what Alabama's done over the years is churn out quarterbacks, the McCarrons, the Tuas, the Joneses. I mean, now you got this Bryce Young.
I only hear one
Saban's
so far, by the way.
Right. Saban is a complete genius. I look at him like I look at Belichick. They've set the bar. Nobody's catching it. And that's what it is. I mean, every year they're there. They've only been out of this college football format one time since they've started this thing. And they know what's at stake. And people say, well, they lose here, they didn't look good here. They believe me, when the bell rings, they lock the gates and they play the game.
I agree. And I think this is, the Heisman's become a quarterback, running back. Once in a while, we throw a wide receiver in there. It was nice to see Hutchinson get this. He finished second in the voting, way behind Young, but well ahead of the other two guys. So I thought it was nice. And maybe we will see one day a real defensive player get that award. And only one has gotten it. And he really wasn't given it strictly for his defensive efforts, that being Charles Woodson back in 97, I think. So it's nice to see them getting some love anyway. It's not just a token thing. I mean, he got almost 1,000 votes, or 1,000 points in the voting. And I think that's maybe they're moving in the right direction, and we will get a real defensive guy in there at some point.
Yeah, and then, if I head down to Atlanta, my buddies are saying I can get a cheap ticket at the Peach Bowl to see Pitt and Michigan State play for $20. Out here in L.A., for the granddaddy of them all, it'll cost you a mortgage because Utah's making their first trip out here, and Ohio State's been out here 16 times.
All right, let's move on here because we're starting to run out of time. Real quick, I know you want to talk about the lockout and the owners versus the players. I don't care who wins that. It's millionaires against billionaires. Get these people back in freaking camp, and the owners need to stop trying to, in my mind, keep the players down. That's what this is all about. The players want to earn money sooner, not be free agents when they're 30, and teams manipulating their minor league time so their service time is low and they have a longer time to get to arbitration and free agent eligibility. I mean, nobody cares about this, Mark. Just get it over with, and I got a feeling it's going to linger right into February.
Well, here's the problem. The owners, and I say this, not with a tongue-in-cheek mentality, but if push ever came to shove, I know the owners have the stadiums there, but the players can build something with foreign owners here. They'd have to build their own stadiums or something, but we all know how this thing lasted in the NFL when painters and salesmen were playing quarterback for your hometown team. Nobody went to watch. We've seen it in baseball. Nobody cares. They want to see the Bryce Harpers. They want to see the big names, the Mookie Bettses. So the owners really need to know that the players control this thing. This baseball players union is the strongest across the country. Might even be stronger than the Teamsters. So I'm for the players. I've always figured that, it's a short period of time to make money. Make all you can. Nobody says anything when Sylvester Stallone makes $30 million on a film, but I know they all point to these baseball players and say they're greedy. I love them. I'm for them. God, if God decides to send me back down, let me be a sports agent.
Yeah, 10% of everybody, not bad, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into our dead solid locks for today. Who you got? I know one team you're going to throw at me, but go ahead. Give me your locks.
Well, I'll tell you, the one I like is the one where I own the damn city, and that's, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will railroad the Bears. So that's the lock. The Bears are horrendous. This should have been a flex game. I don't know how they kept it on Sunday Night Football. The people in Chicago and Green Bay are happy, but the rest of the country needs to figure out, should we watch reruns of, like I said before, Yellowstone? Should we watch Three's Company? Should we watch Cheers? Nobody's watching this garbage.
Well, Yellowstone's live at 8, and you can watch it replayed for the next 4 hours. So that's probably what I'll do.
That's
the same episode.
That's the thing. You keep watching the reruns, and nobody cares. The Bears are horrendous. They haven't been relevant since Jim McMahon in '85.
Good point. Give me another one.
The Redskins will roll the Cowboys. I know what they know. It's at stake. Wow. The Cowboys, it's not going to be a Saints team. The Skins team comes in. They've really started to tighten up that defense. The offense will run the ball down your throat. I like this. It's in Washington. Cowboys are going to be looking at one game ahead after this one, and they'll have to circle the wagons because they got a tough schedule down the stretch too, the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have made that a lock, but it's going to be one of my surprises. My locks are going to be these. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers push the Bills 2 full games behind the Patriots in the AFC East with a big victory today in Tampa. 3.5 points. I'm shocked that line is so low. And my second one will be the Cardinals. Roll your favorite team, the Rams, on Monday Night Football.
Wow, they're good ones, and I like them, to a certain extent. Don't be surprised at this could be the preview of the Super Bowl, Buffalo and Tampa. I think Buffalo goes into Tampa. They know what's at stake, and I think Buffalo pulls one in Tampa. They keep trying to keep pace with New England.
That's a good one. What do you got? What's your other one?
The other one, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. Don't be surprised if Cincinnati pulls one on San Francisco now. I think San Francisco reeling a little after that loss in Seattle. They go into Cincinnati. This is the third game in a row that's been in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, the Chargers, and now the 49ers. I think the Bengals try to keep pace in the division, and they beat the 49ers.
And I'm going to say, don't be surprised if the Vikings beat the Steelers 36-28. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to say my first one is going to be the Redskins. I'm sorry. The team formerly known as the Redskins will beat the Cowboys outright. That'll be my first surprise. And my second surprise is going to be, don't be surprised if the Lions find a way to beat the Broncos at home today. That's my don't be surprised. I might be better off saying they have the ball with the chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, but I think this team will give the Broncos. I'm not a big fan of the Broncos. I'm just not. I can't get excited over Teddy Bridgewater. Never could.
No, never. You're right. Even when he was in Minnesota, and the Broncos they're an interesting team, like the Chargers and the Giants and all these other teams, but they play the game. We're down to the last 5 weeks. We'll see how this thing rolls out. But it's going to be maybe a Super Bowl preview if Buffalo and Tampa. But I know your New England Patriots sitting there at 9-4 could easily have been 11-2.
Could have been. Could have. Would have. Should have. Got it. You're or what your record says you are. Is that fat bastard? Excuse me, Facebook. Fat bastard Bill Parcells said one time, and it's true. Anyway, Mark, we're going to let you go. You enjoy your Sunday football and whatever else you got planned, and we'll have you. We'll see you Wednesday night, most likely. Yeah,
Wednesday night, the day before the big Philly show we do, and the guest there, Carrick Brock, comes through, and Roland Lazenby.
Nice.
Got it. Authored the book on the Chicago Bulls, Blood on the Horn. So. Bless. We got to get you on there, big boy.
I still haven't reached out. I got to call her this week. Remind me. Send me a text and remind me tomorrow. And tell the guys from Alcatraz I apologize, but I'll be on Thursday night for sure.
Yeah, Alcatraz. They could be somewhere still in Alcatraz. I might have to bring the key up north.
All right, Mark. Thanks. You have a great Sunday.
Have a blessed one.
You too, buddy.
You.
Bye-bye. Bye. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media, Philadelphia Radio. We didn't get to a couple of your comments. I apologize. We'll talk about Dan Snyder later on. That's a good question, Alan. We'll talk about that on some later shows. Kenny, I saw your comment about the guys making, you know what? If I was good enough to make $10 million a year, I'd be getting it, you know? So I really don't have a problem. Guys get what the market value says they should get. We end up paying for it, but it's the same way in all of life, you know? Nobody's paying to see teachers teach. Anyway, guys, great job today with the comments. Keep it going. We had some good back and forth. Alan, Kenny, Dave, Carlos, Billy Pulver, Rick Sherlock. Who am I missing? Alan, I think I said Alan's name. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Love seeing you guys come in. Love the back and forth. Have a great time doing it. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Enjoy your Sunday. Good luck to your team, unless you're playing the Patriots, which you're not, because we got to bye. See you soon.